Hello, hi, Debbie here. I recorded another self-hypnosis. This one I actually did it. It's in the dark, so there's no images. So I decided to record it in this way, just the sound. Um, I asked to just go back to a point in history or time or another lifetime where I would find information that would be helpful, and something just for my highest good. And this is what I got. And it goes back to childhood when I had contact with ETs that I was semi aware of, but not sure about, until I heard this, to be honest. So I'm going to press play, and I will leave you to it. I'll come back towards the end. Okay? There we go.
Where is it you find yourself now? Explain it to me.
See what
It feels like I'm in a place where there are tubes, kind of big tubes. And I walk amongst the tubes. Tubes are kind of pale in colour. At first I thought they were long branches of trees, but they're more translucent. And as I walk towards the end, there is an opening. And the opening is quite bright. It's not quite white, but it's a place, and it's a very neutral place. As I look around, there are people. Everybody seems to be going around their business. It's feels a bit medical, and yet it's not. It's quite sterile. It's quite empty of things. I'm noticing that some people are wearing kind of like face masks, and others almost they're like ET-like, a little silver in color, a little grey, silvery grey in color, and they're lying. I appear to be lying on a metal, cold, kind of like steel thing, and they are standing around me, and as I start to sit up, it's not like they restrain me, but they gently hold my shoulders and say, "It's okay. It's okay. You were not supposed to wake up, but you did, and it's okay. We're not here to harm you. We're not here to harm you at all." They're explaining that I have been what we would call abducted, but they say it's okay. This was part of your soul contract. I start to sit up, and I notice I'm not adult, I'm more childlike. I would say I'm probably 8 or so. I'm wearing like my night dress, my legs are bare, my feet are bare. They're smiling at me, and they're saying, "Don't worry, it's okay. We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to harm you. We're not here to harm you at all." We're not here to harm you at all. 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 We you asked to come here as a part of your soul contract. I said many people on earth come, but usually they stay still. They stay in a deep sleep, and we have time to put them back in their earthly body. But you have stayed awake. And I said, so how are you going to put me back in my earthly body? And they said, it's quite easily. We have our ways. We can pop you back quite quickly. And I said, but this place, it looks like I would like to explore. And they said, yes, that is also part of your soul contract. You wanted to explore. So from where I'm sitting, it's quite high. As these guys are a little taller than your average adult would be, but I can see from where I'm now sitting, I can see these kind of panels open in the side, and I can see outside. One has lifted me off the table and is carrying me to look outside. He stands me on the floor. It's very sterile, but there are these little kind of like a bench that I can lean on and look outside. And outside, I just see the vast universe and how beautiful it is, with its sparkling stars and its shining lights. And I now turn around and I look inside, and the bench on which I was lying has disappeared. It's like it went down into the floor, like it only comes up when it's needed. They're standing around. They're kind of not quite smiling, but I can tell that they're not going to harm me. One of them takes me by the hand. His fingers are quite thin and long. He takes me by the hand, and my hand looks quite small in his hand. And he said, would you like to see how this works? And I said, yes, please. And I said, how does it work? And he says to me, think of anything that you would like to see out of this window. And I said, I'd like to see birds and clouds. And he put one of his long fingers on the screen, and there were birds, beautiful birds, exotic birds. I saw trees and clouds in the distance. And I watched the birds. And I said, are there animals there? And he said, yes. What kind of animal would you like to see? And I said, I would love to see a lion, a big lion with a mane and a long tail with like a paintbrush tip on the end. And he put his finger on the screen, and the lion appeared through the screen, a type of window, and it was walking through the long grass, and its roar was quite gentle and calm, and it walked towards the tree and the beautiful, colourful bird that I had seen. I don't know of its name, but it was quite exotic. It landed on his back, and the lion continued walking. And I said, how come he hasn't eaten the bird or chased the bird away? And I said, because they are good friends. And he said, that is how it's supposed to be. And in a time in the future, in your future, when you get on your planet what you would call older, it will be in this way. It could be sooner or it could be later. But that depends on you. And whether you listen to the guidance that you will receive. That guidance will not come from you. It will come from a higher source. I said, what else can I see through this window? And he said, what would you like to see? I said, I would like to see the sea. I'd love to see the sea. And so he put his finger on the window, and the scene changed from the lion to the sea. And the sea was beautiful. And I saw dolphins and whales. And I watched with a smile on my face as I saw the dolphins jump out of the sea into the air and do flips. And I watched for some time. I was quite mesmerized. I'd never seen a dolphin as a child. I wasn't even really aware of the name of this beautiful mammal. And the whale I had seen in storybooks, and I thought they were quite scary, but they were just playing, floating in the water, twirling around, shooting water from the hole in their back. It went up into the air. And there was even somebody sitting on the whale's back. And this person was lying on their back and was just stroking the whale with their two hands. And they were just stroking and big, big strokes. And the whale was just in the water. And the whale would go below the water and the person would swim and float and the whale would come back. And I said, won't that whale eat that person? And they said, no, that doesn't happen anymore. You're looking into the future now. And I was mesmerized how all seemed to be in harmony. Excuse me. The scene on the window closed, and I asked, what can I see now? I said, you can see anything you wish to see. The only thing is, when we pop you back into your bed, back into your world, you won't remember any of this. So I said, can I go out there? Instead of just be in here and watch, I would like to go outside. They looked at each other. There were now 2 in the room. The others had left. I think before there were another 2. And they looked at each other and they said, they just looked at each other. They didn't say anything. They just took my hand and they pressed another finger on the type of window, and it opened, and we flew out into what appeared to be the sky, and it had stars, and it had, wow, it was just so vast. It had swirls and whirls, and we went through, and we came out through the other side of one of the swirls, and we were in this magical place that was like a cave, but it was a sparkling, beautiful cave. There were it felt like crystals in the cave, light-colored crystals, like white. They say it's quartz. And towards the center of the cave, there is some water. And they tell me I can play in the water if I wish. So I climb into the water, and the temperature is so beautiful. It feels like getting into your bath towards the end of the bath when your water is cooling down, but yet it's still warm enough to be comfortable. So I lie in this water, and I float in this water, and I twirl in this water, and it just feels so beautiful. And they just stand and they watch me play. And these little tiny fish come in the water, and I can touch them, and they swim. And they're fine with me to touch them, and I can even pick them up. And they don't feel slimy and nasty. They just feel beautiful. I can pick them from the water, and I can put them back in, and they just seem to be playing, and I seem to be playing, and I ask, can I see these crystals? Can any of this crystal become loose? And they allow me to explore. And one crystal comes in to my hand, and it is looser. And it says, you must leave this crystal here when you leave, but you can hold it now and feel its properties. And when you are older, we will give you this crystal. And this crystal is quite powerful, but it will appear as a normal crystal until you learn how to work with it. And when you learn to work with it, all kind of magical things will happen. And it looks like a crystal that I actually have now. Well, it appears to be just a normal crystal that I leave at the side of my bed. And they say, yes, it will be like that until you raise your frequency enough to be able to work with this crystal in magical ways. And I say, okay. And they get me to put the crystal back. And they said it will appear when the time is right. I ask, is there anything else in here that I can see? And they said, there's so much that you can see. Anything you want to see, you can see. Anywhere you want to go, you can go. And that is how we are. And you, in a way, are like us. You hold our DNA. And I said, I don't understand. And they said, you will. When you become older, you will understand. Your DNA is part of ours. They said, a lot of people on your earth have got DNA similar to ours, but they don't use it at the moment. And they will start to use it in the future when they are ready to use it. And when they do start to use it, it will do magical things. You will become more like us. You won't need to buy things or make things. They will just appear as and when you need them. But that is in your distant future. They said, okay, it's getting late now, and it's time for you to go home. They said, you will not remember this experience, but we will always be close. And you can come back other times, but you won't remember. You will be able to experience being in our lifetimes. And this you will do sometimes in your sleep time. But for now, we need to pop you back where you're safe, tucked up in your bed, in your earth. I was reluctant to go. I was enjoying playing in the water and touching the crystals and running around the cave, and I could see out of the cave, and from there I could see so much, and I saw so many things. I saw beings and that 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 looked human and some that didn't look quite human. I even feel I saw someone that looked like who was God. We had a photo of him on our wall when I was little. And he just sent me love from his heart to my heart. And that just made me feel so peaceful, so amazing. His clothes, he was kind of wearing white, but he had some red on his clothes also, just like the picture, like the picture on our wall. It was a picture that I bought when I made my first communion, and people gave me money, and my mom said I must buy something for everybody in the family. And that is what she helped me to choose. They told me now it's time to go to bed. The man who I think they call Jesus, he stroked my hair, and then he said, "You must go now, my child. You have had your fun, but we are all always with you. Everything." And he pointed to my heart. He said, "Everything is in there." I felt myself kind of go backwards, away from the scene. The scene got smaller and smaller and smaller, and I felt myself kind of land in my bed, but it was quite sudden, and such that it made me open my eyes and see my room, and there were like shadows on the walls. I pulled the covers up to my neck because I felt I was a little bit startled, but more by the shadows in my room. And my dad came in, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I heard you call out. Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Why did you call out?" And I said, "I wanted to stay." And he said, "You wanted to stay where?" And I said, "There." And he said, "Where?" And I said, "I don't know. But I wanted to stay." And he just stroked my hair. He said, "It's okay now, my darling." And he pulled covers up to my neck. And he kissed me on my forehead. And he said, "It's okay. There's nothing to be scared of. Everything is fine. They're just shadows on your wall. It's from the light outside. Mummy has washing on the line, and it's making shadows in your room. It's okay. Don't worry. Go to sleep. I will leave the light on out in the hallway, and I will leave your door open a little, and you'll be fine. You'll be safe. Mummy and Daddy is just next door." I said, "Okay." And I felt myself go to sleep, and I felt I'd had some kind of adventure, but I wasn't sure if I had been dreaming or if I was awake. I drifted back to sleep, and I felt refreshed and happy. And then each night as I lay in my bed and I saw the shadows on my wall, I wondered, is it the washing that Mummy hung on the line, or is there something else going on? I wasn't sure. And now I've come to the end of what I needed to experience. So I bring myself back to this day and this time, and I will feel wonderful all over.
So there you go. I should point out that as a child, it was brought up quite a religious kind of background, but as soon as I got to, I don't know, teenage or whatever, that was it. So I'm not religious in any way, but I must say that encounter did kind of did something to my heart. The other thing is, I think this is the crystal. It's a crystal I went looking for, like, I went out looking for a crystal, and I kept going into crystal shops, couldn't find it. And I actually got this one. It's actually in the Algarve, and it does look like it's been just pulled off something. But it's a very, well, it's my special crystal, but I haven't discovered any special powers of yet. And just to fill in that my parents used to, my parents are always coming in and explaining about this washing on the line that's making shadows. There's a lot of my childhood, I used to see shadows and things. I didn't have any recollection of what I've just heard there. There is a part 2 to this, which I won't put up straight away, but I have recorded already. Well, I hope you like that. Feel free to comment and let me know. Much love. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.